Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and since it's Women's History Month, I'm here today to talk to you about Crown Lake Season 2, the Rundown Rant Review. So, I do like this season a whole lot more than that of the third, but it's not as good as the first in my opinion. See, in the first season, it was a drama that just so happened to have teens in it. And the second season, it's just a teen drama. And I feel like a lot of the characters in this, they regressed instead of progressed and everything. There was only two characters from the first season that barely had any development or screen time, and they had a whole lot more in this season. So they had a lot of character development. However, our two main stars from the first season, they are still very much in this season, like in every episode. The only problem is their progression in season 1 regressed in season 2 and made them into terrible people. Tiffany has always been a terrible person, but in season 1 they tried to redeem her just slightly, and instead of growing on that, they just turned her into like a crabby person, I felt. And so when it comes to that of Eleanor / Nellie, she's just terrible in this season. It's kind of similar to what happened to Zoe Valentine. They get into the second season, and then all of a sudden the protagonist is very unlikable and stuff. And it's quite a shame because you don't want that to happen. And so now in season 3, when we find out what Nellie did, I'm kind of starting to think she did do that. Now, Nellie is not an angel by no means. In the first season, she was a good person, turned bad, and turned good again. But I'll get more into that, and I'll go a little bit more into characters and stuff. Now, this show is created by Sarah Shepard and Lilla Buckingham. Sarah Shepard is known for Pretty Little Liars and The Lion Game. And so that's why this show has a Mean Girl / Pretty Little Liars feel. Problem is, they went very heavy into the Pretty Little Liars territory in this season, more than that of the first, and it shows, and it kinda, in my opinion, ruined it because it had an unhealthy balance to the writing and stuff. It made it more interesting at first, but then it was just kind of like, where is this going? And then when you get into the third season, you really ask yourself, where is this going? And so still we don't know who Heather is. And so, like I said before, every episode is on YouTube. You can watch them individually, or you can watch the marathon. And also, every episode is also on Roku TV app. And so, I still think it's a good season. It's just, okay, the first half is really good, but the second half just kind of goes in a kind of way. And it just makes you wonder, where is this going? It just feels like a teen soap opera. Plain and simple as that. Some of the edginess that happened in the first season, like with the dad and stuff like that, and the mom, that kind of, like that whole thing just got completely written out. And so, there's some stuff with the mom, but it doesn't feel consistent to what we know the mom in the first season. And I get you want to develop that character and have an interesting twist, but what we know about the mom in the first season makes absolutely no sense in that of the second when it comes to why she left the school. And so it changes now my theory of who I think Heather might be and stuff like that. So I had to scrap, because remember in the first review, I was getting ready to reveal who I think Heather might be or why Heather's doing what it is. And so I decided I was going to leave that for a separate video. So I made the audio for that video. Now I have to scrap it because I just rewatched the second season after many years of seeing it. And I'm just kind of like, okay, now my theory has changed and everything. So yeah. So this is getting a little recap of some of the characters. I mean, you can watch it for yourself because it's free to watch and everything. So let's start with the main one, our girl herself, Eleanor / Nellie. In the first season, Nellie was this poor girl who was sweet, wanted to take care of her alcoholic dad, but had to go to this school that the Roaches, not the Rhodes, had financed for her to go. They're mobsters and everything, the Roaches are. And so she goes to this school and she's trying to make friends in the first season, and it doesn't work. Her roommate's evil, and she eventually makes friends with this one girl, and then some shenanigans happen, And it turns out that all of the girls are Heather, or a group of them at least, that's been kind of like teaching her the ropes of how to survive this school. Basically like this: whoever the Heather girl is, something bad happened. She left the school and she doesn't want nothing like that to happen to nobody else. So she wrote this survival guide. And at first she's being nice, but then all of a sudden she's mean and stuff. But it turns out that Heather's more of this like little group type thing, or so we thought, until the ending of season 1. Well, it turns out there is an actual Heather. And so now they force Nellie to give the book to somebody else. See, the ending to season 1, the very, very last couple of minutes when she's with the new girl, that's a new term semester. And so in this season is now 1995, and it's a new term. And we see that girl who Nellie gives the book to. It's Lucy. And so Nellie doesn't want to give her the Heather book, but she does it anyway. Tiffany and Chloe and all them all, like, they has, she has to survive and everything like this. So we get to see now from a point of view of what the Heathers do when they prank somebody. So the new girl, Lucy, is a new prank that we didn't get to see in the first season. And she has to, go to, this monastery chapel type thing. Because a girl died at school many years ago. And so, yeah. Because see, Nellie's mom went there in the 60s. So anyway, this happened way before Nellie's mom went there. That the girl died. And so basically what it is, you go up to the monastery type thing, you knock on it, and then all of a sudden you hear all these weird, strange, ghouly noises from the girls hiding in the bushes, pranking. So they're laughing, all this other stuff, right? Nellie doesn't like the idea of doing this, and so she's very uncomfortable, but she does it anyway because, it's the whole Heather code and whatever. Chloe shows up and she puts an end to it, and she berates that of Nellie. Because why? Starting off in the beginning of this episode, Nellie is still pissed at Chloe, more so at Chloe than she is at Tiffany, because she's willing to hang out with Tiffany. This is why I don't understand. Because her and Tiffany did start to get along in the first season, but we know Tiffany's still a bratty person, but she started to progress and everything. But anyway, so she doesn't want nothing to do with Chloe whatsoever. And so, because she's still mad, because Chloe was her actual friend, and she felt like Chloe's been lying to her the entire thing about the whole Heather thing. And, but then you gotta remember that Heather made Nellie write something bad about Chloe, about her messing around with a male teacher, which the male teacher does not even show up at all in this season. And then it turned out to be false. So Nellie's a bit of a hypocrite and everything. And she realizes she's a hypocrite, and she decides to leave separately with Chloe. So anyways, then of course she still has to do the Heather stuff because Tiffany is making her. So when she goes to put a note under Lucy's door, Lucy opens the door and is pissed. It's all you're Heather and blah, blah. So it's a little bit of a flip from last season when Nellie found out towards the end. So anyway, they decide they're going to work together to take down Heather, and they think Tiffany is the main Heather. This is when Nellie starts to turn into a bad person. She starts to prank that of Tiffany very badly, to the point where Tiffany's with her friends and she puts something in Tiffany's drink. And then it makes black ooze stuff come out your mouth. Well, one of her friends drank it by mistake. Then when Tiffany gets in trouble and has to go to this computer class and make websites, Tiffany doesn't want to do it. Her it's hard, but she makes a page, and then all of a sudden Nellie calls pretending to be from that psych ward in which her brother's in. And so Tiffany thinks, oh wow, he's awake and he wants to talk to me. Well, it's a prank, but then they make Lucy erase everything Tiffany has worked on. So this upsets Tiffany, and she has to stay all night and into the morning working on the project. Nellie is turning into a bad person. Last season, she literally tried to kill a boy by giving him chocolate, knowing he's allergic to it. But then after that, she decided to make amends and not be a butthead no more. So it's kind of where are they going with Nellie? Why are they making her in such a bad person? And then what don't make no sense is that When she finds out that Tiffany is not the main Heather and that there is an actual Heather, she keeps doing whatever Heather wants her to do. Because Heather's all like, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to get you and everything. You know how threatening she is and stuff. So now this scares Nellie to the point where she does everything Heather wants. But what don't make no sense is that in the beginning, when she was along with the whole Heather stuff, like, one, why would she go along with it? Because you don't have to teach a person this survival lesson of hazing a person. And then two, when the real Heather starts going after her, why didn't she tell nobody? Like, I know Heather say, hey, don't tell nobody, but still, why didn't she tell nobody? She told Tiffany, Chloe, somebody who knew about the whole Heather thing. Now, one thing about the whole Heather thing don't make no sense is that they say they give it to every new girl, so that's why they gave it to Lucy. But there's a Lola girl who's new at school too, and they never give her the Heather book. So they're not consistent with their own rules of writing this show. So if every new girl is supposed to get a Heather book, like I said before, how is that even possible? Then, like, why doesn't every single last girl in school get it at the same time? And so, like, so that don't make no sense. So anyways, with Nellie, she doesn't want nothing to do with Josh because of what happened last season. Josh's mom got completely written out the show. She's mentioned, but she's written out the show. And so, like, at some point, she does make up with that of Chloe, and they start being friends, but they rarely hang out and everything. And then, so that's kind of weird because they're like supposed to be like really good friends. But Chloe's going through her own thing. I'll get into that later and stuff. But so anyway, Nellie always has that little inkering for bad boys and stuff. Ryan, who really doesn't have much of a role in this season other than just bopping in and bopping out, he explains to Nellie over the summer him and Tiffany got back together and stuff, which is kind of weird because he blew Tiffany off for Nellie, and him and Tiffany have nothing in common. And so then all of a sudden she has to start taking Spanish and needs a tutor, and she starts talking to the new bad boy and everything. And the new bad boy is Nick, and he sells drugs on campus, like pills and stuff for athletes. And so there's nothing really that happens between those two, other than the fact that he knows Tiffany from the past and stuff. And so it's really inconsistent writing because, like, I'll get to him a little bit later. And so anyway, with Nellie and stuff, like, she's still doing all this bad stuff. Now, her and Miss Merriweather, the headmistress, she barely has a role in this season. She only appears like twice and very briefly, but Nellie has a new antagonist called Miss Rose, the new counselor lady. And so when it comes to that, Miss Rose, Nellie doesn't like her because, you know, they mouth off to each other and this and that. And then she ends up getting detention in like this closet. And she has to like type out a bunch of stuff. So Nellie is being very rude, very defiant. And it's very uncharacteristic of her because the teacher really hasn't done, or that the counselor hasn't really done too much against her. And Nellie's just being like a butthead this season. And so it gets to the point where Nellie starts to like snoop around that lady's stuff because the lady mentioned that she knows her mom when they went to school here and stuff. So Nellie snoops around, she finds a photograph of her mom, and in the photograph is also Miss Rose and stuff. And so she knows her somehow, and Miss Rose gives her these cryptic A-type messages, like verbally, like saying like the whole Pretty Little Liars thing. And so she gets Miss Rose fired because Miss Rose, when she evaluates all the students, she writes down her notes, but she writes down very mean stuff. Somebody talks too much, somebody has body image, nothing too bad, but it ends up getting her fired. She pissed and she knows it's Nellie, as Nellie's just staring her down all evil and stuff. And it's kind of like, who is Nellie becoming? She's becoming like a queen bee and everything. And then the teacher, the counselor tells her one more thing before she leaves. And then and she gives her a key. And this doesn't make no sense. And I don't like the writing to when they did this because it's too much Pretty Little Liars crap. And so when she's talking to Tiffany and she's talking to Chloe, she's all like, she gave me this key and blah, 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 blah. And then it's something that Miss Rose told Chloe. She's like, okay, let's go look around her office. All of a sudden, everything's gone, but it just happens to be a couple of stuff staggering around, and it happens to be a box. Well, of course, the key goes to the box. And what is it? Video reel from back in the olden days. So they're able to find an old projector. That's so random, but it's 1990, so yeah, those things kind of did still exist around that time, but still. So in the video footage, she's watching it, and it's a bunch of girls hiding in the bushes as they're tormenting a girl going to the crypt. She realizes one of the girls is her mom, who is spying on the girl at the crypt. And it turns out her mom is a bully and everything, which takes her by surprise. And who did her mom bully? Mrs. Rose. Rose was the little girl at the crypt. And so, see, at first, Nellie was kind of all like, I wonder if Miss Rose was the reason why my mom left the school. No, the lady told you last season your mom left because of your dad. She fell in love and left with him. So your mom never got kicked out. Her mom never got bullied, nothing like that. But it turns out her mom is a bully. And so Miss Rose, for some bizarre reason, just left that for Nellie to find in a very scavenger hunt kind of way. But then why didn't she just tell Nellie or show her instead of being so cryptic? See, that's when they're trying to get in that whole Pretty Little Liars territory. And it's kind of making the writing a bit uneven and stuff. And not only that, but who in the world recorded them? This was back in the 1960s. There were no camcorders. Back in those days, they had those old projector type camcorders, but who recorded it? And not only who did it, but the way the girls were acting in this, it looks like somebody was filming them, but they didn't know that somebody was filming them. So that's just kind of weird when the show goes in that weird kind of territory. And so, I'll get more into Nellie a little bit later. I'm getting some more characters. Let's get into Tiffany. Tiffany is a million times worse than what she was in the first season. She's way more that of a queen bee. Her two little minions, she boss around all the time. They have to fetch her food, they have to fetch her water, they have to wash her laundry. She's basically bossing them around like slaves and everything, and they take it. And I'm just kind of like, what happened to Tiffany? Yeah, she was mean in the first season, but she started to turn nice towards the end, and she was conflicted whether to be mean or good. Now she's just back super mean. And so she's dating Ryan again. But those two barely have any screen time. And when they do, it's very brief and there's only 2 times, and they get along very well, which makes no sense because they're like oil and water. Because it's like they have nothing in common. Also, he's so nice, so why would he want to be with a nasty, rude little girl for? That don't make no sense. And then in the 3rd season, we find out they're married and stuff. So this makes no sense because they're so different. But her personality does change a bit in the 20-year time gap. So anyway, or a future flash forward type thing. So anyway, Tiffany basically just bossing them around. She's telling Nellie you have to do the Heather thing to Lucy and everything because it's the rules and this and that. So then they start trying to prank her back and everything, and it really gets to her. We see her once again start to feel sorry for her because she's getting bullied now. But why should we feel sorry for her when she's so mean and nasty to everybody? They should have made season 2 Tiffany into season 1, and then season 1 Tiffany into season 2. That would have been so much better for her progression and everything. And then so her brother is still in that mental ward because he did something really bad to get arrested and then went to a psych ward and everything. And she doesn't want nobody to find out. Well, her and her mama are still having problems, but she's talking to her mom a whole lot more. But when her mom is on the phone, her mom is all like, we're having some money trouble. So Tiffany is now broke. Her mom took all her money out her card and everything like that. Tiffany doesn't know what's going on with her mom in the money situation. And we don't know because the writers don't let us know, because the writers decide they're going to give us this tidbit but not explain why. That is bad writing right there. You don't do that. If you're going to have a big climactic thing where the rich mean girl is going to have all her money taken away, we need to know why and everything. So after that, and again, picked on some more and talking to Ryan a little bit, like her, Chloe and Nellie, the one who discovered what happened to that of Nellie's mom being a bully and stuff. And so basically, that's really Tiffany in a nutshell. She's super mean in the beginning, but then we had to feel sorry for her. But then next thing you know, Heather is on the attack again, and Heather reveals to everybody about Tiffany's brother. This causes Tiffany to be alienated from the entire school. Her friends no longer want to be her friends, and now they start hanging out with Nellie. And so they don't want nothing to do with her. And not only that, but Tiffany's also being really rude to Nellie before Nellie started pranking her and stuff. And it's kind of like what happened because those two were starting to bond last season. So it's weird writing, it's bad writing when it comes to that of Tiffany. It's like, what are they doing with her? Because the writers just literally don't know. I'm getting to Josh. Why not? Josh did not have a big role last season. He dated Nellie. He pranked her to the point where she had to kiss every guy on the team. She didn't like that, and that's when she ran away. So he was labeled as a bad dude because of that season. So they decided to turn it around this season. In this season, his mom is nowhere to be found, and so but she's mentioned and everything. And so Nellie said something to like upset him about his mom, and because Nellie doesn't want nothing to do with him. So he's on the wrestling team, and there's a new girl at school who's very tomboyish with a short little hairstyle and everything. And she's on the wrestling team, and I think she ends up beating him, impresses him. He starts to turn into a nice person because of this. She teaches him she can wrestle, but then there's a bully on the wrestling team and everything. And so his whole role in this is he's going to expose Nick for the whole drug thing. He sees Nick like giving drugs to people. He sees that Nick is hanging out with Nellie. He doesn't want Nellie hurt. And then so next thing you know, he exposes Nick for like the drugs and everything like that when Nick gets kicked out. And then so that's basically his role in the entire season. There's not much about Ryan, so there's really no point in even talking about him. But let's get into Chloe, because Chloe has a huge arc this season, much bigger than last season. I've already said before, Nellie wanted nothing to do with her, but then they later made up. And so, but after they made up, they really didn't hang out after that. Why? Because her attention has been focused to the new girl, Lola, and everything. Lola is a tomboy and a secreted lesbian. And so Lola is starting to get picked on by a lot of the kids at school because of her hairstyle. And, you know, they threw her book bag on top of like a tree and everything like that. So they start to talk and they start to bond and everything. And you can see Chloe's kind of like just staring at her in a curious kind of way, because it turns out Chloe is secretly closeted herself, or secretly closeted, and she doesn't want nobody to know because it's the 90s and stuff, you know. And so when people are starting to harass that of like Lola and stuff, she sees it and she doesn't like it, and so she befriends her. But then at the same time, when Lola gives her a huge hug, Chloe is kind of freaked out because she doesn't want people thinking that those two are together. So she starts to like, you know, drift away from the Lola, which hurts her feelings. And then she starts to go and hang out with Josh, and they have like a little movie date. And then next thing you know, Chloe kisses Josh just to kind of like throw people off the signal, and then Lola sees this. This doesn't make no sense because, you know, she told Nellie stay away from Josh because he's such a creepy person and stuff. And all of a sudden she's like hanging out with him. See, the writing makes no sense. And then so at some point, after talking to the counselor lady, because her and the counselor lady get along very well, and that would upset her when Nellie got the lady fired. The counselor lady's been helping her, but not knowing exactly what's been going on with Chloe, because she won't tell nobody because it's the 90s. So then her and Lola have like a heart-to-heart, and they become friends again, and you can tell they're gonna start like a relationship, but nothing physical, because, you know, and stuff like that. But it was a nice way they did that. They kept in tradition of that, the 90s, and homosexuality, as well as modern day, as wanting people to be represented and stuff. It was a very nice, touching, moving kind of way, and it was done very like brilliantly, in my opinion, that didn't feel overly forced and didn't feel like, you know, lacking at the same time, because it's all in the emotion and what they say that makes you feel it and stuff. So with Lola, she is the new girl, but she doesn't get the Heather book for some reason. People pick on her because of her short hair, and they can tell that she's a little different. And they get to the point where somebody wrote on the title wall that she's in the girls and this and that. And so she earns the respect of both Ryan and that of Josh. Now, there's a kid on the team who doesn't like Lola because she's a girl and she's on the team, so they have a huge fight, but that fight's gonna be in a wrestling match. She ends up whooping him badly and then he ends up and she ends up becoming like the manager alongside the coach of the team. So then when the bratty kid is starting to act kind of bratty, she's all like, "Coach, I've seen this before, he's on something." And then so he searches his bag and he finds the drugs that like Nick gave him. So when they're in the little tournament type thing, all the guys are losing, and then the coaches are gonna have to forfeit because we don't have another person. But they throw Lola in. She wins, and this earns the respect of the bratty dude who didn't like her and stuff. And then, like I said before, the whole thing with Chloe and stuff. Other than that, that's all she really does in the whole season. Now we get into Lucy. Lucy is a very interesting character. Lucy is the new girl at school who got the Heather book. I already said before, her and Nellie are trying to think that it's Tiffany, but it turns out not to be. It turns out in a twist that Lucy is not Heather, but Lucy is working for Heather. See, Lucy was a bad girl before she went to the school. Her parents were going to send her to military school. And so, but somehow she got contacted by Heather. Heather's all like, "I can get you into this school, but you have to do everything I want you to." So the whole time she's been playing dumb when it comes to Nellie. So this pisses off Nellie and stuff. Whoever Heather is can't be a teenager to get this girl into school and everything and had that much money and prestige and stuff. So after telling, Nellie like everything, the big reveal and everything, she thinks everything's all good and stuff like that, like on Heather's turn. But then Heather sends her a message talking about threatening her, talking about "you'll be next if you don't do this and do that." And so yeah, so she is like antagonist. Now, in the 20-year time jump in season 3, it is reported, because this didn't happen in season 2. This is why when they kept saying this in season 3, I'm just like, I don't remember a fire. Anyway, a fire got started, and Lucy died from the fire. And it was reported that it was Nellie that started the fire. And then when the police questioned her, Nellie kept saying over and over, "Heather made me do it. Heather made me do it. Heather made me do it." So Nellie got expelled from the school, but not arrested or nothing like that, or thrown in jail. This is where I don't understand. Now, because Nellie started doing some butt-headed stuff in season 2, and Nellie tried to kill a dude in season 3, yeah, there's a good possibility that Nellie did set the place on fire because of Heather's wishes. What I don't understand is, why is she so terrified of Heather? All she has to do is tell like the grown-ups at school, like, you know what I'm saying? And then they will try to figure out what this whole Heather situation is about, because so far the teachers seem to be not really sure, except for Miss Rose, who might know. And so yeah, so the whole fact that Nellie killed a person in the future supposedly and burnt the school down, I can kind of see that happening, all because she tried to kill that dude, but then also I can't see that happening. And so it's kind of like, why would they write the Nellie character to be like that 20 years into the future? I am now starting to wonder if there was any behind the scene drama, or because, the third season got delayed because of what virus, maybe the Nellie actress just didn't want to come back because of the whole what virus. So then, you know how sometimes creators and showrunners are, they get so like pissy that they're like, "Oh, well, I'll ruin your character," and stuff like that. So maybe they wrote it to where Nellie just went nuts in the head and tried to set everybody on fire and stuff. But I don't know, man. It's just weird. And that's the problem I'm having with the third season, because they spent too much time trying to figure out what happened with Nellie back in the past and all this other stuff, but they didn't do a good job, in my opinion. And so if they do get a fourth season, they need to explain. They need to explain more as to why Tiffany became the headmistress, why her and Ryan got together, why Nellie set the place on fire, and why they killed Lucy off and everything. And just all kind of other stuff. So when it comes to this season, it's just, it feels like it was just not written badly as like season 3, but it was wishy-washy. Like I said, first half is good, second half just gets kind of odd and everything. Like it literally just turns into like a teen drama and stuff. And there isn't much character development, just regression. The headmistress is barely in the show. The teacher from last season is not there. The main characters are butt heads now. And what's ironic is the situation with the boys. The boys' campus is supposed to be across the woods, but we keep seeing all the boys constantly over there with the girls, and they even have classes with the girls. So maybe the boys' dormitory is across the woods and everything, but we're always seeing them like front and center at the school and everything. And so that was always the one thing that kind of bugged me. But anyway, I still think it's a good season. It's just, they're trying, it's like, it's weird. It's like, it's almost like they got in trouble in the first season with how dark things went. And then they tried to go in the second season and they were like, okay, we're gonna go darker, but then they had to been pulled back. And they had to make it into like this wishy-washy type thing. And so it was ambitious with the whole drug angle that was just kind of like a sub point. This is the whole thing with the whole Nick and drug thing. It served no purpose on the show. It didn't progress any of the characters. Now, he does know Tiffany, but their parents worked together. And he was probably the one who exposed the whole, like, you know, Tiffany brother thing, and that's how the rest of the students found out, and that's how like Lucy found out and exposed it for the whole class to see. And so because when Tiffany got exposed, we see a smirk on Lucy's face. Now at this time we didn't know she was the bad girl and stuff, so that gave her away very early on. So it was probably him that told her, but we just don't know because it's never explained. So why throw Nick, this curveball, into the show that really had nothing to do with the show and that of the characters? It really just didn't go nowhere. That's why it felt like a teen drama as opposed to a drama that happens to have kids in it. Because in the first season, every character that gets introduced is tied to the whole like Heather subplot and tied to that of Nellie, because the whole season is really about Nellie and stuff, and also Tiffany. But then in this season, it just didn't really go that way. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.